Arturo Schomburg was a self-described Afro Boricua. He was a bibliophile. He was a cultural and historical explorer.
Arturo Schomburg was born in 1874 in San Juan, Puerto Rico. His mother was from the Virgin Islands and his father descended from German immigrants. Although not much is documented of his earlier years, he did tell this story.
Arturo Schomburg often told a story, particularly as he matured. He talked about when he was a child in Puerto Rico, asking about people who looked like himself. History books did not reflect his people.
It was in his 5th grade teacher that said that the Negro had no history, that because he had this Negro blood, that he was kind of unimportant.
This childhood moment would go on to change the trajectory of Schomburg's life.
He made it his lifelong mission to prove that one instructor wrong, and he did so brilliantly.
Now this story is in some ways symbolic of so many people of color in the world, where questions of racial identity have often been submerged to national identity. And in this sense, Arturo Schomburg was on the leading edge of creating a space for people of African descent, not only being able to talk about their history, being able to shape their history, but also to politically organize.
Arturo Schomburg would go on to dedicate his life to finding and archiving African books and art from around the world, collecting the history he was told did not exist.
He was tireless in terms of his efforts recovering any objects, especially books, anything that had to relate to African history and culture.
In 1891, a 17-year-old Arturo Schomburg would arrive in New York City. He would become a founding member of Las Dos Antillas political club that stood for the independence of Cuba and Puerto Rico and would donate weapons, money, and medical supplies to aid the independence struggle.
Schomburg focused on what was happening in Cuba and Puerto Rico, found himself in heated and intense conversations with African Americans who were also figuring out, how do we deal with lynch mobs in Mississippi? How do we deal with police brutality in Harlem? And so he became very close friends. They agreed upon a course of action that would make learning, intellectualism, and history a crucial resource in the activism itself.
And his collection played a large part in his endeavor. Schomburg would store his books and artwork in his Brooklyn home, which over time became a library and a significant source for intellectuals and activists of the day.
He found books like 12 Years a Slave, written by Solomon Northup, that was recently made into a movie. It had been published in 1853, and over 3 generations was not very popular outside of the context of the abolition movement.
Schomburg sold his entire collection to the New York City Public Library for $10,000, and it would become a mecca for intellectuals during the Harlem Renaissance.
One of the things that was extremely important to Schomburg was to keep that collection in Harlem.
There were other people who were interested in his collection and wanted to keep it as a private collection. He wanted the public to have access to it.
This collection would ultimately become the world's leading repository for the study of global Black history.
The legacy that Arturo Schomburg leaves behind is letting the world know that there are people all over that have African heritage who have contributed to all things possible in this world. His love for Puerto Rico and respect for Puerto Rico's birthplace never died. I think if he were here, I think he would send a similar message to the young Puerto Ricans, which is, we all have a contribution to make. Even if people tell us that we can't go there or we're not able to do that, the legacy of Arturo Schomburg says, oh yes, yes you can.